My name is Ian Hesketh. I'm part of the policing consortium here at the OU. I've been with it since the start. My current role in the police is I'm the wellbeing advisor for the College of Policing, so a policy advisor, working on the organisational development and international faculty. PhD, right. When I started the PhD, I just finished a master's, an MBA, and one of the areas that I was really interested in was the cultural makeup in the police and how the police looked at various elements of what they do. And one of the areas that I was really interested in was organisational behaviour and looking at well-being in the police. I soon spotted that there wasn't very much in the way of research on it, so I teamed up with Professor Sakari Cooper, and I started a PhD. It happened very quickly, and really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. So my research topic was looking at well-being, and in particular resilience in policing, whether you can train resilience, whether you can retrain it, whether you can recruit to it. All those things. What makes it a resilient individual? Is that congruent with being a police officer or a police member of staff? What are the difficulties? What makes that easier? So I was researching initially resilience training efficacy. The majority of the thesis was about resilience training efficacy. And then en route to that we uncovered a phenomenon which we labelled leavism, which added to the debate around how workplace wellbeing manifests in actually the workplace, so it was quite interesting. Okay, so leavism. Leavism is what we looked at when we were trying to establish what happens to people who are unwell in the workplace. Is the first reaction is people go off sick, so everybody sort of understands that, knows that. Then Gary Johns introduced this concept of presenteeism, where actually when people are unwell, they sometimes come into work for various reasons. Sometimes it's out of loyalty, other times it's out of fear that they've been made sanctioned or even worse, be sacked. So there's a number of reasons, but there was a gap in that, in the fact that people sometimes actually took off their annual leave allocations, flexi time, re-rostering rest days, and all other sorts of things to take time off from the workplace when they were in fact unwell. And again, congruent with Johns' work, that would seem to be for a whole host of reasons, such as loyalty to an organisation where they didn't want to take sick leave, or where they perceived it as some sort of performance issue if they were off sick. So looking at Bradford factor things and issues like that. I chose to do the PhD part-time because I really enjoyed my work. At the time I was with Lancashire Constabulary as a police officer, so I really enjoyed that sort of work. What I actually wanted to do was to study in a live environment. So the part-time nature of the PhD gives you that opportunity. So actually what you can do is study what's actually going on in the workplace in live time. So the research, the surveying, the focus groups, Q&As, just basically getting background information. That helps if you're still working. So for me, it was really complimentary, and I enjoyed it. I found the time. The Lancashire Constabulary were fantastic in affording me enough time to study, so that didn't really become an issue. But on top of that, still you have to study at nights and most weekends throughout the term of it, I would suggest. The challenges for studying part-time PhD, undoubtedly the biggest one is time. Like I alluded to before, you do need to make yourself available weekends and most nights. Study is constant. You're constantly being given or being made aware of new research that's coming out that will impact on your research. So it's really important to keep up to date, in my view. A second challenge would be access. And I think that the part-time nature of PhD affords you a better opportunity sometimes for access, especially if you study in your own workplace, which I indeed was. And another one is supervision, which is really important. And I'd urge anybody who's doing a PhD just make sure that you get the supervision nailed. You know, you're going to have a relationship with those people for a number of years, and that needs to be a close relationship. And I think people underestimate that sometimes. So time's the biggest challenge, relationships, and then access to a research arena. What surprised me about studying part-time for a PhD initially was the almost the isolation compared to master's study. So master's study is very much cohort based. You're in learning sets or learning groups most of the time. There's lots of lectures, lots of time where you get together, do some group thinking and discuss issues with tutors and things like that. I think the biggest surprise initially for the PhD is the isolated nature of it. So you're not on your own to any great extent, but you do feel like you're studying a subject of your own choosing, of course, but on your own. So in terms of people to bounce things off, you create those en route. So those relationships of people studying similar things are created en route to your dissertation, a thesis. And initially they're not there, so that comes as quite a shock when you've learnt in sort of in groups before, and then you suddenly become learning something or researching something completely on your own. I think that was probably the biggest surprise. And after that, the length of time it takes. You know, that's again is a really long time. You know, 5 and 6 years of part-time studying is a long haul, and you cannot put it down. I would suggest you have to keep going with it, which is good. I really enjoyed it, to be honest, but it is a long time, and I think people need to think really seriously before embarking on it about that time commitment. In terms of positives about PhD, for me, it was all positive. I really enjoyed it. The enjoyment, and I'd urge people to enjoy the journey of it as well. Don't just think about the end title that you're getting from it. It's about enjoying that journey and picking up friends and relationships en route, which you undoubtedly do. You move into a different sort of circle in terms of social, in terms of work circles, in terms of who you network with, which is all positive. And I think the academic community is a really good place to be. You know, it's positive, it's diverse, you know, it's worldwide. So there's lots to you know. I think when you're studying, you realise that actually there's always somebody doing something very similar to you somewhere, and they're accessible through the networks of the education departments in various universities all over. What I wanted to achieve with the research was to change practice in policing. Undoubtedly, that was the goal for that. So the things that I was looking at was resilience. Can you sort of train resilience? Can you retain it? Can you recruit to it? When I talk about recruiting, I don't mean just to policing. I mean to specialist departments such as public protection units and things like that, counter-terrorism, armed response, things that have a higher danger or risk level. So now the police is very much focused on risk, threat and harm. So probably moving away from traditional policing as most people would see it. And with that changing landscape, there needs to be new attitudes, perceptions, understandings of what's going on in the workplace. And I think that my research has certainly contributed to that. So in terms of contribution to practice, I think I've achieved those goals. In terms of PhD helping with career aspirations, obviously now I've moved on to work for the College of Policing, which is sort of on a national basis, which I'm really pleased about. Could I have done that without a PhD? Maybe, maybe not. But I think what it does is equip you to be professional in what you look at. Your reputation is very much enhanced by the PhD. And you come to understand how study and research actually informs practice. And I'm not sure you could do that without undertaking some research elements. I'm not sure that needs to be at doctoral level, but I think you need to understand how research works. There's many pitfalls as well, of course, and you learn those at your own expense en route. So I think it equips you really well. I would say make sure that you are 100% sure of your topic area, what you want to study, and then once you're 100% sure, make sure you're 100% sure again. Make sure you get absolutely the right supervision. I think that's the biggest mistake many make. Many people that I've spoken to have had nightmares with supervision. You need to absolutely nail that on, because you're going to be in that relationship for a long time, and you need the support, you need their experience, and you need the knowledge exchange as well. So I think that's really important. Make sure you go to a good university as well that's going to support you throughout the PhD. And enjoy it. I think that's the biggest thing. Make sure you enjoy it, and not just thinking about the end goal. Think about what you're learning en route, how that's useful to the workplace, how you can utilise it for your own personal development and so on. So enjoy the journey as well. I think that's one of the most important things. And make sure that you don't underestimate the time that you're going to have to give up to that PhD study.